Crystal from Crystal's Den and Garden, aka Crystal's Den, and last summer I had my first ever big garden. And while it was super successful and super fun, I definitely made a lot of mistakes along the way. So today I wanted to talk to you about 5 mistakes that I made as a beginner gardener and give you some tips to help you not make those same mistakes as well. So the first mistake I made was just being disorganized and not having much of a plan. I knew I bought seeds and I bought dirt and I knew I had pallets and I knew I wanted to grow in that, but that was really the extent of my planning. And so it kind of became overwhelming and I was doing a lot of learning along the way, failing along the way, all of that. So a tip I want to give you is to just ask yourself, certain questions so you have an idea of what you're working with and how you want to get your garden started. Stuff like what are you going to grow? Where will your garden be located? How much space do you have to work with for your garden? Especially how much space do you have for any of the type of crops that you're growing? When will you have time to garden? And also just why is the location that you chose a really good one? Kind of asking yourself these questions will really kind of help you not feel so overwhelmed as you go into, the growing season. Having a journal is very helpful too, as well as maybe making a photo diagram, just of the space you're working with and kind of drawing out and placing where you want to put your different veggies and fruits on there. That's something I'm utilizing this year and it has definitely been way more helpful. And my second mistake that I made was not providing my crops with adequate lighting. There was places that I had put certain fruits and certain vegetables that they weren't getting enough sun. A quick anecdote, I had my tomatoes in my east flower bed, and that flower bed gets sprinkles of sun in the morning, then shade, and then sprinkles of sun later. So it doesn't get that full sun. Most crops need 6 to 8 hours of sun a day, tomatoes included. So once I moved them to my backyard, which gets sun all day, they thrived and I got tomatoes all summer. So I say all that to say is, I put those tomatoes there because I thought they would be aesthetically pleasing. I was like, oh, this is going to be really cute right here. This is what I want. But, especially when gardening, it's not about what we want, especially when we think about placement. It's about what's going to be good for the crop and how it's going and putting it in a place where they're going to be able to grow abundantly and efficiently. So just make sure that anything you're growing, pay attention to the lighting requirements. If it needs full sun, give it that full sun. If it needs less, then pay attention to that as well. The third mistake I made also has to do with plant placement, and that was just planting things too close to each other. When I had my transplants from seeds I had cultivated or just transplants I bought, I would, kind of bunch them up. I did that with my tomatoes, I did that with my squash, and I just kind of had them all kind of close together. When you read the packets on a lot of these, though, they say they need 3 feet apart. But because everything was so small, I just wasn't thinking about, the end goal of this stuff is going to grow, so it needs room. And especially viney vegetables like squash, pumpkins, and watermelon, they are going to vine out. They can go up to 30 feet, I've heard. So I say all that to say, make sure you're paying attention to the placements of your plants, your seeds. Even when you're planting it small or big, that placement will determine how well everything is going to grow. And it will also make sure that, the plants aren't fighting for nutrients, fighting for space, fighting for resources. So make sure you give them that room so that they can grow abundantly and, just grow really well. So the fourth mistake I made was not keeping up with weeds or just grass maintenance. I had put down cardboard, put my pallets on top of the cardboard, put the dirt in it, and then that's where I put in my plants. But once the cardboard broke down, it allowed the grass and the weeds to kind of grow up. Even around the perimeter of the garden, I had put cardboard and a little bit of mulch, but I didn't put enough, and it just got really overwhelming and it grew kind of wild. Weeds coming up to the beds, grass on the perimeter, very hard to maintain, especially when it gets to that point. So this year, something I'm going to be doing in all my beds and around the perimeter of my gardening is adding mulch. Mulch is so good not only for keeping moisture in the soil whenever you water, but it's also good for like keeping weeds away. If you can pile it up to like 4 or 5 inches or even higher, then no weeds or grass or anything will be able to grow up through it. So I'm going to be mulching this year, and mulch is definitely going to be a really great remedy to help you keep those weeds and grass down in your garden. Also, just having a raised bed, like off the ground, that was very helpful too. And then the 5th mistake that I made was just not being patient. I was very impatient at times, especially when I was making seedlings. If they didn't sprout, I would maybe throw the dirt in another container only to see it sprouted later, or just watering when I didn't need to water, or picking tomatoes that were not ready, but, that weren't fully red. They were, they weren't ripe or anything. So different things like that. And as someone who struggles with patience already, like, gardening has definitely given me the space to really like become more patient and, let things like go, just like trust, just let things grow and just trusting the process. So I just want to encourage you to just really like be patient with yourself and with the garden this year. Most crops even take about 90 to 100 days to even fully mature. So that means that they need time to be able to grow and develop. We did our part as, planting and giving them, nutrients and giving them a good space to grow. Now it's time for them to do their part. So be patient, trust the process, it'll all go well. All right, y'all. Thank you